Hi, today I'm going to be talking about creating dovetail joints in SketchUp, and this video will be on doing pins first. Let's create some stock to start with. Let's do, say 6-inch wide, 3/4 inch stock, and we'll create a board that's 8 inches long. Now let's see, let's turn this into a component so that we can identify the pins versus the tails. And as long as we're here, let's also give it a color. Dark olive green. Now it's a little lighter. Dark khaki. That's going to let us see things a little bit better compared if we can see the difference between the tail stock and the pin stock. Okay, so that's the pins, and I'm going to create another piece of stock that's going to overlap this one. Again, this is going to be 6 inches wide, and let's do again 3/4 stock, and we'll push it through to 8 inches again, and we'll create this one as tails, and we'll leave it white. Okay, so we did say we're doing pins first, so let's rotate this around where it would be in our vise maybe. I'm gonna double click on the pin board, and I'm going to actually hide all the other components. Now if I right click on this, actually I suppose I should point out that I have selected the entire model. The entire component. Now, if I intersect faces with the model, it tells me where it scribes the line that I would normally scribe by hand on the end of that pin board. So what I'm going to do is, if I think about my orientation here, I have the tail board coming in this way. It needs to lock into this so it can't pull out this direction, the down direction. So I want tails that are angled like that and that. So we're doing pins. It's always marked in the end grain. I'm going to pick up the tape measure. Again, I use keyboard shortcuts for everything. T is for tape measure. And my first half pin, let's say 1/2 inch out. We're going to want the same size half pin on the other side. So there we have two guide points that are 1/2 inch. Switching over to my protractor. Now this is important. I want to be on the end grain. So in this case that's the blue protractor. If I was down here it would switch to green. If I was over here on the red side I'd know it. But I want to be on the end grain. I click to establish the axis of rotation. Then I want a guide point. Now I want my guide point to be along that green axis, alright, all the way to the edge. That's going to let me now angle this in the plane of the end grain. So let's say 13 degrees. That's a pretty standard dovetail angle. How wide do we want the tails to be? Well, let's just say 3/4 inch. So there it is. Back to my protractor. Right across on the edge, that's my guide point. And we want 13 degrees. I'm typing 13 in there. Alright, now that I have that typed in there, I'm going to trace these lines. Boom, boom. There we go. That's really most of the work done already. Now I'm going to hit my space bar, and I'm going to double click that polygon, that trapezoid that I just created. I'm now going to move it, and I'm going to copy it as I move it. So I'm going to M for move, or I can select the move tool from the toolbar, take the end point. Now as soon as you start to move this along the red axis, go ahead and hit Control. That way you're copying it. Go to the guide point that you left for the half pin. Click. Now you get to decide how many tails you want. So let's say, let's divide that into 2 pieces. So we had 1, and we had 2, so we've got 3. We can go to 4. I like small pins like that, so let's go to 4. Now get rid of your guides, and what I find is very useful, I scroll, I rotate up, I select using the parallel projection, so you see what we're looking at now, and I select tool, and I move to the right with my select tool. And what that does is that selects that whole top face. Now copy that, alright? And now that you've copied it, just remember that you have it. You're not going to need it for a little bit, but you have it. So back to our perspective camera, and we're going to go to our extrude tool. We're doing pins, so we're getting rid of the tails. Click, go down to our line. Great. Double click, double click, double click. And we're double clicking with that extrude tool. The push pull tool duplicates the last push pull it did. Okay, so now we can actually leave this component because we just finished our tails. It's that easy. We're going to double click, move into our pin board. Now let me show you the other components. There it is. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit, paste and place, and remember we have that top face in there. There it is. This has just become part of this component. We want to hold on to the tails and get rid of the pins. So push pull. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, 5. I accidentally moved it while I was double clicking. Okay, there we go. We're pretty much done. I'm going to pull up this a paint tool just so that we're back to all white, so we don't get confused. And now I can leave the component, and there we are. Dovetails complete. If we don't like our marking lines, we can go back in, hit the erase tool, get rid of those lines. But you know, you often see those in fine furniture, so I tend to leave them around. And there you go. That's a pins first dovetail in SketchUp. Thanks.